Okay, where are my slides?
So, hey everyone, welcome to the Marketing Success Summit. We have another fantastic speaker today. Today we have Roger Tiger Burrowes, all the way from South Africa, although living in the UK at the moment. So firstly, I'd like to really welcome Roger for taking the time to come and speak to us today. Really, you're very welcome.
Lovely. Thank you very much for having me. Absolutely honored.
Great, it's fantastic. And I have to say, you come highly recommended by a number of people. So I'm really excited for the topic that you're going to be talking about today. Just to give people a sense of perhaps who you are, maybe we might just kick off. Maybe you could tell us a bit about yourself, Roger, because I think you have a really interesting background, and just kind of give people an idea where you were originally in the army, and then you would have worked kind of more corporate, and then more recently in network marketing, but equally in property as well. So it's kind of an unusual mix. And I think what really interested me about you, Roger, was in particular your ability to create a very good community around you, and where you're inspiring other people and really putting yourself out there as a leader in network marketing, but even in business and in marketing in general. And I think there's some really great lessons there about mindset. I've listened to some of the recordings about kind of setting goals and focusing and whatnot. And I think, regardless if you're in property, regardless if you're in marketing or network marketing or whatever it is you're doing, I think those principles can apply across the board. So can you tell us a bit more about you, Roger, just a bit more about your background and kind of where you come from, and just kind of your journey that has brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. And like you've already alluded to, it has been a bit of a roller coaster journey indeed. And I think, like you've already said, it kind of finishes with understanding that what I now am about and believe about can be applied to almost any business model. And it's taken me going through a few to kind of discover it. So as you already said, I'm originally from South Africa. That's why you will still sense a slight bit of an accent on me. And my dad moved the whole family over to Galway in Ireland in 2000 and 2001. And that's kind of where my attachment to Ireland grew. And I stayed there for, I think I was just a couple of years before I went over to study in Wales, and I studied graphics. So my background, or my raw talent is probably like more of an artistic nature. Mm-hmm. But I left university, and I was always thrown into this model of working, and I only lasted, I think, maybe 6 or 7 months in employment after leaving university. I got a job straight away, and that was great, and I was a young little designer. But something, whether the military had a really good recruitment campaign at the moment, or whether the attraction to kind of living life outdoors and being essentially what I would describe as not actually like working behind a desk for a living, is what I wanted to get away from already, only after doing it for 6 months. So that's what I did. I went off and I joined the British Army. I managed to pass selection and go to the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. Mm-hmm. So people do know it as the most elite leadership training school in the world. And at the time, I didn't really understand what I was about. They said, "Oh, you can go to Sandhurst because you've got your education. We just have to put you through selection." And I made it through. So that was very cool. And that lasted 8 years in the military. And I left only it'll be 2 years January that I left the military, and I left as a captain. During my time in the army, I did so much. It was awesome. I really loved it. It encapsulated everything that was about me. It allowed me to not only lead and inspire people, but allowed me to develop really insane skills in operations. And I did three tours of Afghanistan, where I got to put skills into practice and work with, honestly, some of the most amazing people that you would ever come across. The friendships and the skills and the life that I've built coming from the military has really made me who I am today. But I left the army not out of wanting to leave the army. I actually really enjoyed it. I've got such fond memories. But I left because I wanted to build a bit more. And I felt like I was being limited in the army in terms of what I could kind of create. Whether that's just me being crazily ambitious, or whether there was just something not happening. So I actually left because a good friend offered me the opportunity to start a company with him in London. and we started a recruitment company. And the company was very special to our needs. We were actually recruiting ex-military into civilian jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a niche in the market that worked very well in our strengths, both being ex-military army officers, both with a very strong military knowledge and network. It worked really well. When we were doing business development and having clients on the phone, our services was something that they wanted. People wanted ex-military to work in their establishments. So we built the company from 2 of us in the front room of his flat to office in Battersea in London. And we did that for a year. And this is where my journey really took the biggest shift, I would say. I was moving from military to business, and I was trying to learn. I was doing a lot of learning, and I was reading books on building businesses, but that progressed to books on personal development. And I discovered whilst cruising the internet one evening a chap named Jim Rohn in terms of motivational speaking and books, and I picked up a bit of his information, and I started thinking, why hasn't someone shown me this before? Or why hasn't anyone taught me the principles of success from this perspective? How am I 30 years old and no one in school ever told me that you had to fail first in order to succeed? Mm-hmm. And why did I never learn in university that there's more ways of doing business than working for 40 years of your life or just acquiring skills? So during this development of building a business and learning about other ways of growing, I actually picked up a little network marketing project, just a side project to produce a little bit of extra income into my life at the time, because I was working really hard and I wanted to build more income. So I started understanding liabilities and assets. So I thought, I'll pick up a network marketing company. That's a little asset that can drip some extra income into my life. And within 6 months, it was paying me more than working in London.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
what do you feel contributed to that success?
It was definitely the working on myself harder than working on a job. I honestly just begin to understand that if you can give more value to other people, that is what's going to pay you over wanting to sell something every single day of the week.
But can you just define value though? Because I think it's a phrase that's bandied about kind of in the online world about giving value. And I suppose, can I just ask you your interpretation of, how people can give value? So if somebody's listening to you today, how can they replicate basically what you've been doing?
So value can come in so many shapes or forms. And I think the most raw or easiest definition is that when someone can leave either feeling better or have something that's going to improve their life. So you could add value by improving someone's health. You could add value by improving their knowledge, or you could even add value by giving someone the inspiration and motivation to go and do something. I think in our whole society of online, I think people love to buy stuff, but they hate to be sold stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the trick lies in whatever business model you're in. Because ultimately, for any business to be successful, the product or the service has to be consumed or used by the clients. And when that client feels that they have made a decision to buy something because it's given them the value, where they can actually put it into action, or they're actually using it, they feel that it's improving them, then that's where the trick and the measurement is. And I suppose you do that by looking at yourself and seeing what things, if you're in sales or if you're in business building or if you're in business development, what got you to where you were? What did you buy? Why did you buy into the things that you did? And then kind of reverse roll that and put that action out. Mm-hmm. I think in an online marketing world, it's so easy to try and sell something online, but then the reason is no one's going to buy it because they feel like they're being sold something. Yeah. So I don't think I've ever actually directly sold something where I've said, can someone buy this from me? And someone said, yes, I want to buy that. Whereas I might do something like 5 ways to improve your day. And then people are like, oh, that sounds really cool. And then you kind of bring in an audience, which is ways to improve your day. And then through that, you develop a relationship with someone who wants to know a little bit more. And then you can say, I've actually got this as well, which has benefited my life. Mm-hmm. Because you've already given them the value of the 5 ways to improve their day, something that they can take away. They actually trust your approach to give them something else useful.
Yeah.
I think that's a roundabout way of explaining value.
Well, I think it's that same principle of know, trust and like. I'm sure you've heard that before. People want to know. People buy from people. I think that's really what it is. And, I used to do a lot of sales myself many years ago. And totally, it was well known that, when you met people, they bought from the salesperson and not necessarily the company.
Oh, yeah.
So how you presented yourself, how you spoke to people, how, like as you say, how you give value had a huge impact on whether you made a sale or not. And I don't know if you've heard of the nudge principle. I'm trying to think of the guy that I heard in a conference there a couple of years ago, a really good American guy, was at a conference. And it's kind of like what you're talking about, where you're drawing people towards you or nudging people in the right direction. So it's not this talking at people, it's actually, you know, speak, like having a conversation. It's like, just talk to people. You know?
Yeah, really. And it's so true to no matter what you're in. It's that relationship that's going to get you to where you need to go.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I really love it. And I think as well, I suppose sometimes it might be perceived as being more difficult online in terms of, you know, developing these relationships. But I think as well with YouTube, with the Facebook Live, with Periscope and all the live stream in particular more recently, that there's huge amount of opportunities there for people to get to know you, where, like, you know, yourself, Roger, you're giving like 5 tips to set you up for the day, or as you say, something that's helpful, that's they'll remember you for, but they're not actually selling. It reminds me actually of, we had a local pub owner years ago, and he was always known that, you know, if there was a family celebration or whatnot, he'd give a free pint of Guinness or something. But what he would get reciprocally was everyone would buy at least 2 or 3 rounds of drink, because they appreciated the gesture that he made, because he didn't have to. And, you know, it was always known on both sides how it operated, but people, even though they knew what was happening, they appreciated the gesture, because obviously some people didn't do it, like some pub owners. And yet he made back far more money and developed relationships with the people on a long-term basis, so that they would come back more regularly, and even got extra business where there was other family members, you know, where they're like, wow, that was so nice, you know. So it seems like the same type of principle in many ways, but just kind of a step.
You kind of you create for yourself that power of a recommendation. So when someone feels that they've got a great value or great resource from you, that they'll tell someone else. And there's nothing short of the power of recommendations in today's world. I know I don't buy anything without it being recommended to me. It really is true.
Okay. That's a good principle to operate in. I'm just wondering as well, Roger, because there's some great tips for people in terms of giving value, and be it for network marketing or indeed for anything at all. But you're also a property investor. And I think that's hugely interesting as well. So at the moment, you were telling me that you're working on some Victorian houses, or a Victorian house, I think, and you're doing conversions and whatnot. And, you know, and I'm actually hugely interested myself in property, and I think, you know, there's great opportunities there. And I'm just wondering, kind of, you know, I suppose what first attracted you into being a property investor, and I suppose what you're kind of getting out of it now, kind of in terms of personally and I suppose professionally as well.
Yeah, so that's like the last bow to my string in the last development after building network marketing and being able to go into that full time. My wife and I, it came from learning more about building a life of assets as opposed to liabilities. And we picked up a first property that was just our own home, our own family home. And it was a new build property. And then we went on this property course because there was a keen interest that excited us about the true value of having a portfolio that could pay you. And we saw property as the absolutely ideal way where you could build something once that paid you forever. And we're just understanding that bricks and mortar is value, that if you look at the history of the United Kingdom property market, it's one of the most stable in the world, and has kind of never really dipped below anything in the past. It's just, in terms of stability of building business, we loved it. What we didn't understand was how you could get into it with nothing.
Okay.
We
I think you have a lot of interested people that might want to know the answer to that one.
I tell you, if I can ever share like one piece of advice, I know it sounds easy and said and done, but never ever let money stop you from investing in property.
Okay. Can you explain that one now, please? Because I know people are thinking, you know, what the heck?
I know. Okay. So first of all, people don't realize that that there are people out there that if you can display your understanding in property and what you're doing, that people will give you money to invest in. There is first of all the investments. We have managed to secure a property first of all in our portfolio without paying a penny. Now, how do you do that? Well, I'll give you the short answer is you don't actually own the property. What you do is you legally you have the option to purchase the property, and all you do is, for example, there was a lovely old woman who unfortunately was really struggling to sell her property because it was really in dire straits. It was below a market value because it needed a lot of work.
Right.
But if she sold it for that money, she wouldn't be able to pay off her debts. So she'd be out. And she was facing foreclosure. The bank wanted to take her property back from her. So she'd be out on the streets or not be able to accomplish something. So we managed to come up with a deal where we said to her that we will pay her mortgage for her for a couple of years. That would allow her to downsize and move into a flat to the rent that she could afford. And we also promised to buy her property from her for the market value that she wanted for it. But if she sold it now, she wouldn't get it. What that allowed us to do was get into her property, to fix it up to a nice rentable standard, to rent out the property. We rented out the property for more than her mortgage was. So we actually managed to make money off her property. And now we have the option to purchase that property when the critical or the kind of the capital gains meets the market value.
Sure.
And then we will turn for her. So the key is that we've managed to solve this woman's problems.
Okay.
That's the absolute
As
key.
a matter of interest, how did you come, was this property for sale? How did you find it, or how did you find this kind of scenario, I guess?
So this property was for sale, but it had been on the market for over a year. So that gave us the identification that, this needs to happen. But now these deals are not, you don't come across this every day.
Yeah, of course.
In order for us to find a deal like this, it would be hundreds of viewings, hundreds of networking, hundreds of property offers until you find sellers who've got a problem that you can solve. So it doesn't happen every day of the week. But then we have developed with our education, we've invested vast amounts of money into our own property education. We do really see the value in purchasing our education. We do see that first of all. And we've had a property mentor, who's someone who's got a 20 million property portfolio in the UK, come and actually spend a week with us.
Okay.
In people's houses, going to viewings, going to auctions, and just teaching us everything he knew about property. And that cost us, but the value or the understanding that we got how to go through with these deals from working with him. For example, we have advertising that goes out which says to people that we can buy your properties for cash, or we have marketing that goes out which the postmans drop into houses for us, or we get distribution chains to put them out for us, which are fishing for these people who may not be selling their house but are absolutely desperate to get rid of it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so learn ways of kind of finding the leads.
Okay, well, I think that's great, and thank you, Roger, because that's great to get an insight.
We could go forever on that topic, I know.
Yeah, but the thing is, what I think the important aspect of that is first of all, thinking outside the box, that it's not just regimented, that you have to go to the bank and you have to kind of operate within kind of like a traditional model. So you guys have thought outside the box. Also, I think it sounds like you've developed a really good relationship with that lady. There's an element of trust there. I'm sure the contract signed in terms of what her expectations are, what you guys are
security,
and all that sort of thing. But it also strikes me like that you're relationship building. So within that context, she trusted you. So there's a lot of trust kind of on both sides. And also you mentioned education in terms of like getting a property mentor, somebody that's kind of further along the line than you guys. And I think that's really, really important lesson for everybody that's tuning in today. In that, even though you say it costs you more, and I'd actually urge you to say invested more, but it's really about educating, but getting the information or the mentoring from somebody that's done it previously, and therefore can help you to save money in the long term because you're not making these costly mistakes. Yeah. I think that's the same whether it's marketing knowledge you need, whether it's accountancy knowledge or, whatever it might be. So I think that's a really great lesson that I think you shared. And also that you're going out looking for business in the context of having ads, and that you're saying that you're buying for cash. So that means obviously you're being proactive. And again, I think that's a really great lesson for people today. So thank you very much for sharing all of that, Roger. I really do appreciate it. And I'm sure people appreciate it too, because, it really is about thinking outside the box. And approaching kind of what you might call a problem, but actually just kind of finding solutions for it.
Exactly. I think so. Very famous people. I think of his name right now. It's a podcast I listened to last week, and he said that you'll be paid on your ability to solve problems.
Great.
And it's brilliant when you understand that. Yeah.
That's fantastic, and I love it. So, I mean, really, I mean, you said this to me before, but your passions as well seem to be about motivating and inspiring people away from mediocrity. And you're doing a lot of public speaking and motivational workshops as well. So, in fact, already we've spoken at length, and you've several streams of income, but several kind of strings to your bow, if you will. And a lot of it seems to come back to inspiring and motivating people. So can you tell me a bit more about kind of how you help people with mindset, kind of how people can achieve their goals? Is there something you could give people kind of an outline of, and how they can go about, replicating what you're achieving and which you've achieved in a very short period of time as well?
Totally. When you say about my motivation, inspiration, that is like property is where my head is. My head understands how property works, and I enjoy doing that. But motivation, inspiration is what hits a core, what I call a core value. Something that gets me out of bed without an alarm clock is when I know that I'm going to be speaking that day about motivation, or I know that I've got someone booked in to do a goals workshop. That stuff, literally, it would trump anything else.
Right.
So I've got, I think, if I can share my screen, a couple of slides. Let me just grab them, and we can add a bit of visual to. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can indeed.
Okay, so. Now the first thing kind of like I really get to is kind of where I'm going is what really changed my face for kind of motivation was to understand how I want to live, and then to weigh that up against how long I want to work for. Because like you say, yes, we've managed to achieve something in kind of like a short space of time. If you look back at the transition of what we learned to where we are now, we still think we're very, very much in that limbo mode of achieving the success and walking away from working and not. But it's kind of the decision to weigh up against what life we wanted to live. We didn't want to be constrained by jobs. We didn't want to have people telling us when and where we had to work and what we had to do. But then we also weighed that up to get how hard do you have to work in order to live the life that you want now. Mm-hmm. That's what we did. The last 2 years are an absolute blink of an eye. We've lost countless hours of sleep. We've haven't taken a holiday. We've just gone kind of above and beyond what we really expect from ourselves. But we understand that it's to build the life that we do want to live for. We understood that if we weren't going to change, then nothing around us was going to change. So that's what we did. We kind of just said, right, let's just work incredibly hard, taking leaps of faith, borrowing money that we didn't know how we're going to pay it back, and to kind of just to get to where we were really. And this slide on the screen now was the true understanding and the pinnacle of understanding a motivational mindset. People really think that something has to catastrophe or a big event or a big change in the way that you do life is kind of what creates success. They expect this big moment, but it's just not like that at all. And this is a slide from the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And he explains life that it's just every day is about 1% better than yesterday. And you're never on a flat trajectory in life. You're either going down or you're either going up. And there's not going to be one event that has made you catastrophically successful or one event that has made you a complete failure. It's the decisions that you make every single day. And this really became kind of what I understood in terms of success is the disciplines that create success are really easy to do. So, for example, waking up every morning and reading something that's going to educate you in the job that you're going out to do, or listening to a motivational podcast, or networking event, or just something of going to the gym to keep fit. They're really easy actions to do, but the problem is that they're really easy not to do. So that's where we split into this cycle. It's really easy to skip a day in the gym if you want to get fit. It's really easy not to read the book on that you've been learning about how to tackle your next opportunity. And that's when you're just on that slow trajectory. But it's the exact same when you flip it upside down. Doing it every single day, you look back at a year and you think, wow, okay, that's how it happens. No one wakes up in the morning with a six-pack. It's every single day.
No, really?
And I am a bit of a fitness and a sports fanatic, and it comes from my army years. But I do understand that to get fit and strong, it's that every day is watching what's in the kitchen, every day about going to the gym and training. And that applies to everything, like a screen: finances, health, business, personal development, relationships. It's about making tiny decisions every single day, which keeps you on the path to success. And when you understand this, what I call the slight edge methodologies, when you understand that that's how it works, it often separates that failure point where people say, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. And in reality is they didn't try it long enough, or they didn't understand that it wasn't going to be this light switch that flicked on and all of a sudden their debt was cleared. And it's kind of like to understand that. So that was a big turning point for us. And this is just a little, that's actually me when I was in the army on an exercise. I think you can just about see my name on the back of the helmet there, Burrowes. But I love this because I'm throwing a grenade. And
Is that a grenade? Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I talk about, it was only a training exercise, so don't worry, it wasn't in real life combat or anything. But I loved it because it said, make it count because it's not coming back. And I applied that to everyday situations, because when you understand that the power that you've got in the moment, you understand the power that once you put something out there, it's not coming back. And that was the exact same philosophy we're looking at every single day, is just to understand that, okay, whatever I do today, let's make it count because it's gone after today is complete. Yes, I can take lessons from it and improve on, but the most important thing was to know that it was moving on, that it was getting away. Now, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about procrastination because
I love that.
This is such an awesome point. I think so many people struggle with, because I know when you and I spoke the other day, we talked about that people can get all the knowledge and understanding, but when actually putting it into practice is what happens, or where people fail up, or people things. And for me, I can honestly say that I am addicted to procrastination.
You don't sound like you are, to be honest.
I know. It's my number one biggest problem that I will face with. Once I'm in that procrastination cycle, every single day I honestly battle with it. And this picture shows you exactly what happens in a procrastinator's mind. And I think so many people can relate to it, is that you've got the rational decision maker. He's the dude who's driving the wheel. He's the one who understands that you need to work hard to get success. He makes the good decisions each day. But every procrastinator's got that little monkey in his head. The little monkey he's a pet, but the problem is that I don't know how to look after a monkey. I just know how to make good decisions. So the monkey is always in the way. Now, it's always saying, you know what, that can wait for tomorrow. And it's always the problem with procrastination monkey is that he wants gratification right now. He can't see that when you go to the gym every single day that it's going to give you the health that you want. And he can't see that by reading your book every single morning that you're filling your mind with the information that you need to tackle the day. He just wants to be gratified right now. And you're constantly fighting that battle in your mind. And the only really way to get out of that is when your procrastination starts chasing the very thing that you are. And that's when we call the slight edge. Because at first, it doesn't feel like anything's happening. It doesn't feel like there's any success. It feels like you're doing the same things every day for no gain. But then there becomes a point when you see the light, or you see something is about to finish. For example, if you're working on a project and you're at the point where you might want to hand it in complete, you get that surge of energy, don't you? You get that, oh yeah, I can see the deadline, I can see where it needs to be, I can see what I need to do, and you have no problems working. And when you can reach that point, your procrastination sees that gratification as more powerful or more desirable than going downstairs and watching a TV program. So procrastination, for what everyone battles with, I'm so sure. I know there's dishes downstairs that need to be washed. For some reason, I want to wash them more than writing emails to clients. The house needs to be cleaned. Procrastinators have this amazing ability to make everything feel productive without actually doing anything productive. But when we understand that by walking through that tough period, that slight edge of that upward curve where you have to just fight back the procrastination monkey until it can see the goal, until it can see the piece of success, which is absolutely awesome in kind of its journey. And everyone knows that this is like one of the most famous quotes or sayings of all time. And it actually comes from the Tao, which originates from ancient Chinese proverbs many, many years ago. And everyone knows that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I mean, I'd probably be a millionaire for every time I'd heard that I'd been given $1. But what really interests me is what happens after that. Everyone takes that first step and people think, oh yeah, everything starts with it. But it's the very next step which interests me. Mm-hmm. It's what happens when people pack their bag, they get ready to take on their problem. They get down to the base of the mountain and they look up and they think, oof, that's a bit bigger than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like what happens next. And then there's a kind of where you get this diagram, and I'm sure you've probably seen it before. And it loves me. And the people see that, okay, yeah, my plan, it's easy. I'm going to pack my bag, I'm going to climb that mountain. But when they get down to the start point, they realize everything that's in the way. And then they realize that journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step every day. It doesn't just begin and then it's easy. You've actually got to make that decision every single day. I can have the most productive Monday and achieve so much, and then wake up on the Tuesday and all of a sudden my procrastination wants to kick in and says, do you know what, there's a couple of things you really need to do first. And that's the power of kind of that procrastination, or that ability to want to always need that instant gratification. No matter where you're on a project, having this awesome productivity day, the very next day you've got to make those same decisions to tackle those problems again, the same decisions to go through your routine and go through your habits. And that's kind of like what really gets you to your end goal. And I once saw a model which I loved, which explained success to me, and it was just a very simple diagram, and it had an arrow which said success left and failure right. Then they had a cross through it, and then it had the correct diagram at the bottom which says an arrow to success, and then on the other side of success was the arrow to failure, and on the other side of failure was success. Mm-hmm. And when I understood that, it was like that. It was okay to fail, and where that led me was saying it was okay to put things out there that weren't necessarily perfect. It was okay to be able to get online and do some marketing that wasn't necessarily perfect, to be able to see its impact that it had, so I could then perfect it and get it better. And that's why it's that, again, to see challenges as not stopping blocks, but actually opportunities to improve, opportunities to get better, and opportunities to go forward. And it is a massive shift in your mindset to start learning this way, and this way only comes from I wonder what happened there. Yeah, this way only comes from doing the actions, and only comes from learning every day, and only comes from the importance of working on yourself more than you're working on your job. And that's when your mind starts to understand that challenges are pretty cool, and challenges are pretty awesome to be able to then, more importantly, share your experiences and help other people do it. So that's kind of where we are there. If you want to move on to anything else at the minute?
Sure, yeah. I suppose, in terms of, like, you're obviously speaking about procrastination, and I think, I suffer from it. I think, most entrepreneurs have those days where those dips, and where it's difficult to pull yourself out of it sometimes. Equally, I think, depending on who's around you. So, for example, I sometimes find, personally and equally with entrepreneurial friends, whereby their families don't understand, kind of what they're doing, and it's not that they're trying to be negative, but in their misunderstanding of what they're doing, they're advising them to go back to, say, a 9-to-5 job and whatnot. So when the person is equally procrastinating, it can add a double-edged sword to, well, do I really need to give this up? You know, kind of all these kind of, I suppose, challenging questions, if you will. But I'm just wondering, where there's lack of action, where there's even, I suppose, longer periods of inaction, have you anything to recommend to people that can kind of jolt them out of it? Or
I would,
how do you help them?
love to take that opportunity to do a very quick exercise.
Sure.
Maybe everyone watching can do this. This is something that I use every single month. I will do this again, and it actually just highlights what actions you need to do. As you can imagine, when you're starting a new business, or when you're starting a new venture, or even when something's been working for a while, but all of a sudden it stops working and you're trying to understand why, because things change in the marketplace, things change on social media. I mean, look, at the moment, it's all about live streaming, isn't it? So if you weren't doing live streaming, maybe your business is taking a bit of a dip because all the live streaming businesses are hitting people's news feeds. Mm-hmm. So there's just the way things changing. So this exercise that I use, let me just get it up, is called a life wheel. And I use it to make sure that I am, yeah, there we are, that's up. I use it to make sure that I'm on track. Mm-hmm. And anyone can do this. And I have this one prepared because I teach it to people online. And it's an exercise where that's what you need to kind of start it. So you can just scribble that on a diary page. Essentially, you need a circle divided into a pie chart. And you can use each pie in whatever way you want. I learned this exercise probably 2 years ago on my first coaching workshop, where I went to a workshop to develop coaching skills. And we had to do this ourselves to look at our own journey. And what we do is we divide the pie chart into first of all, the middle one is your priority. In your priority, that's your areas of life that you need focus on. Mm-hmm. Then you've got the goals, the things you want to achieve in that area. And then you've got the action, the things that you can do to start meeting those goals. And we'll go through some. So, for example, those are kind of priorities that are kind of interesting to me. Work off my model. My work, where do I want to take it? What do I want to achieve in work? My finances, that could be a big one for everyone. Mm-hmm. I look at my relationships with my wife. Funny enough, I do goals and actions to make sure that I never lose my love and my relationship with my wife. Sounds crazy, but
that's great. I love to hear that. There's a guy called Dale Partridge. Have you come across him?
No.
He's on Facebook there, and I think he's written a book. I can't recall exactly, but he talks a lot about success and kind of some of what you're talking about. But he refers a lot to maintaining relationships, yes, with his wife, but in general as well, and just putting that effort, and kind of talks along the lines of what you're saying. But I just think it's a lovely message to have in a world where there's a lot of discord and there's a lot of short-term views of relationships, and I think business as well. And of course, obviously I'm in marketing, so I think there's a short-term view in marketing. So I love the idea that you're actually deciding in many ways to make your relationship important.
Yeah, well, I think I learned from it where people realize why relationships break down, or maybe they don't realize why. When you start a new relationship, you're in that honeymoon period, aren't you? You do all these actions that you don't even realize that you're doing. It'll only be my 1 year wedding anniversary next month.
Oh, congratulations.
But, thank you. But it's still understanding that I don't ever want to slip into being mediocre. I've got to realize what I have, and I've got to work on that just as much as I work on my finances and my property. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to get it's sorted. But Francesca, my wife, she does the exact same. She understands that. She always works on it just enough to improve me. But we're a year in, so it'd be easy for us to say that we're working on it.
We'll come back to you in 20 years and see what you're saying.
But let's look at finances, and just to explain on how people can use it. So what you do is you first write down the areas of your life that you want to get clarity on. Even if it was a priority, and maybe you had an obstacle or something that you came across that you was a sticking point, you could put that in your priority. And then you look at the goals and you write down the things that you want to get out of that priority. So in my finances, I want to be short-term debt-free. The reason I say short-term debt-free is because that's clearing things like credit cards. I don't worry about property mortgages, because those are what I call secure debts. I'm not worried about being debted in property. I'm talking about loans, credit cards, store cards. So the first thing I wanted to do in my finances was reduce that. That was a goal. I wanted to meet financial independence. What that meant was to become financially free, where if I woke up on the first of the month, all my bills were paid without me having to work. That's what I decided was financial independence. So I had a figure that when I looked at my bills account, what went out every month, there was a figure. And I knew that I wanted that to come in on the first of the month without me having to work. That's why I described as financial independence. That was a goal. Then I wanted to have £20,000 as a buffer. I have no idea why I picked that figure. It just sounded nice to have that in an account that you could never touch, that could get you out of almost any situation potentially. I don't know why I picked that figure. It was a nice figure to pick. Then I wanted to cash flow £1,000 per calendar month. What that means, cash flow means money left over after everything's paid for. That was my cash flow. So that's what I decided, like, that would be nice, a really comfortable lifestyle to have in my pocket. And you could pretty much do anything you wanted to do in terms of, those figures, they grow rapidly because you realize you want to do more. But to start in my finances, that's what I wanted to achieve. And then what you do from that point, I keep going back. What you do after you've done your goals is you start your action column. Now, your action column is you just go wild on your brainstorming. Write down all the things that you could do to help you reach those goals. And remember, it could have been a project deadline in your priority. You write down the goals you want to achieve and all the actions to meet that deadline. You can use this model for anything. So my actions for sorting out my finances were to reduce my outgoings, looking at my bills and what I can pay for less. That was a massive lesson in understanding how to become financially free. First of all, let's stop putting less out than is actually needed. I wanted to set up debt management. And that means that by actually having someone look at what situation I was in and started building a kind of a plan for me, I could start clearing my highest interest first. So the cards that collected the most interest rates, I could start clearing first. I could reduce my liabilities. And that means things that don't bring money into your house, but take money out. For example, a car finance is a liability. So we actually got rid of a car at that point in our lives. We went down to one car. I can work for promotion. This is where I started to understand that I can bring more money into my house now. I could set a goal of a promotion that I wanted to achieve, and I could work towards that. I could take on some extra work. Do I have time as a weekend where I can bring an extra bit of money? I can then start building the next asset, i.e. what I looked as a buy-to-let property. That means something that I can put money away on that's going to pay me forever. So I could start doing that. I could start a 10% account. A 10% account, if you don't have one, I encourage everyone to start immediately. It was one of the most important lessons that I learned from Jim Rohn studying his stuff is every single thing that comes into your account, whatever it may be, always take 10% and put that into accounts. That was a very clever way of starting that. And that was going to be starting my savings. Because as you can imagine, sometimes when you're working in property, you have a big injection of cash when you sell a property. So to be able to take 10% without even thinking if it wasn't there, I built that 20 grand buffer pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. Then cancel this year's holiday and save it. Francesca and I canceled our honeymoon. It was crazy. It was a tough decision because she really wanted it. But what actually ended up happening is at our wedding, people gave us so much money that we were able to go away to Budapest for 5 days. So what we did is we took the money we were going to spend on our honeymoon and put that into property. Mm-hmm. And then people on our wedding actually gave us money to go away. So that's another thing you could do. And then book on workshops and property investments and increase my knowledge and attend networking events. These are just examples of all the actions that I could have taken to achieve this goal. Actions that are things that I can do. Now, that's when you start getting a bit of clarity. That action column can fill up as much as you want it to. You can write down anything that you think can help you achieve one of those goals. Mm-hmm. The key then is at the end of the exercise, you do your top 3 action points. And this is just what you're going to focus on this month. That's it. This is where you get the clarity in what you want to achieve. So, for example, my top 3 actions for that month when I first did this life wheel was to reduce my outgoings. I got on the phone to every bill company that I paid and asked to reduce my bill. It sounded strange, but I think I saved about £150 in one day. It's incredible what you can do. Even if you ring your credit card company and tell them that you're going to go to another credit card unless they return to 0% interest, you'd be amazed that they will do it. So just get on the phones to the things that you pay and see what you can bring them down. I started my 10% account and paid into that religiously. And then I canceled this year's holiday. We canceled our honeymoon so that we could save that money into property. And that was just the top 3 actions for that month. And that was what we worked on. Then right at the end of the month, we did a weekly review. Or you can do this weekly, or like I say, do it monthly. And it's also a very key point because we looked at what worked. We looked at what didn't work. What will we keep doing? Have my actions changed? Is there more actions that I can add into that life wheel? Have my priorities changed? Do I need to readdress my priorities? And can I add or take away any actions? Can I rule some out that don't work? Can I add something new in? And you repeat the process. And this life wheel can be used anytime in any point to be able to just give you some clarity in what you want to achieve or give you a goal. I think we have so good at building goals and so good at understanding what we need to do, but then what do you actually do each day? What do you actually go out and accomplish? And this is what this wheel does for me. It just gives me my focus. It gives me my understanding of what I need to go out and get done that day or that week or that month. And that's what you do. And because you can't do all those actions, unfortunately. And as you could imagine, when you've got other areas in your life that are important, like your relationships and like property and other things, they've also got their top 3 actions. So at the end of your action life cycle, you might have 9, 10 actions that you're going to do. And those are the ones. That's why you just got to rule out other actions. It's difficult. You can't do everything. But focus on 1 or 2 things each and every day is what keeps that curve upward. Is what keeps that trajectory going up.
Great. That's fantastic. Thank you, Roger.
I hope that's useful.
No, I think it is. And I think it's good to see it on a graphic because I think it brings it home to people. And I think just on the left-hand side there where you have the top 3 actions, because I think overwhelm can obviously beset people, and I think that's quite helpful where you have a list, but equally you have your top 3 actions that you're going to focus on at that particular time. So that's fantastic. I really, really thank you for that, because I think people will find that useful and that they can implement pretty much straight away into their own lives as well, which is really great. I'm just wondering as well, because we spoke about it briefly the last day, but in terms of people, we spoke about teaching and learning and whatnot, but where people have learned, about be it property or about marketing or about whatever it is in their industry, but where they're not actually leveraging what they've learned. So they're on this wheel of constant learning. Now, I have to admit, I'm a constant learner myself, but I do have to remind myself to, stop learning sometimes and actually go out and do it. So I'm just wondering, have you any thoughts about that? And kind of, again, obviously it's important to learn, but equally the action is important afterwards as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You speak so much sense. We on our property courses, the school that we're involved in, we have a meeting or a course like every 3 months, which teaches us new legislation and new ways of doing things. And on the courses you go to, you get a little ribbon that you put on your kind of portfolio, which shows all the courses that you've done. Mm-hmm. And there are people that we meet on these courses that have got 20 ribbons but don't own a property.
Right.
And you understand that there's a massive separation to the action takers and the learners. Mm-hmm. People who they go to the events and they get all their information, all the knowledge they do, but when they step out into the day, they never actually put anything into action. And for us, or for me, the most important point is to be able to do that, to do it or to take action, was to have those daily disciplines every day. So it is actually to have a flow chart on your diary, and I don't know if I can pick mine up, if I can find all my charts, that you can actually start. There's one. You can actually start ticking off.
Okay. Yeah.
I write a list of things that I need to do every day, and some of them are so simple as to say prepare Monday's blog, but it gets a tick. And when you go on these courses and these learning and these serial things, they pump you up so well to go out, but then people stop the next day because they don't do the actions that the course was doing them, or the course filled them up. So sometimes it's just got to come down to how badly do you actually want it? Mm-hmm. How badly do you want to be able to accomplish something? It's easy to get motivated in a room full of motivated people.
Sure.
It's easy to kind of write down a list of things you want to do, but then the discipline into actually carrying through and starting some actions. So honestly, it's a tough question to ask yourself sometimes, but how badly do you want to succeed? How badly do you want your project to come out on top? And I think unless you want it as badly as you sometimes need to breathe, or unless you want it as badly as sometimes you have to eat to stay alive, then it's not going to happen. And it's a hard reality, but it comes down to that utter refusal to accept anything less than what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, I think it's probably hard to hear sometimes, but that actually is the truth. And actually, I don't know, have you seen Barbara Corcoran in the US? She's a lady on Shark Tank and has basically, built herself up, very, very wealthy lady, but multiple businesses and whatnot, but sharp cookie. And, she talks a lot about that when she's deciding on who to invest in. Oftentimes what she's looking for is the type of person that is able to overcome obstacles, that has perseverance, that has grit, that has, even when they're beset by, because let's face it, in business, you'll have those down days where things aren't going correctly and they're not necessarily following the plan that you set out. So she actually cited that, and I see it on social media quite a bit, where she kind of is very open about it, where she looks at the history of the person and what they've done previous to that. And if they're inclined to stick it out, she sees that as an asset to a business.
Amazing.
And I think it's interesting because, again, it's making that decision, isn't it, to keep going even though it's hard. It's like climbing that mountain and you're getting near the top, you can see it, but not quite, there's a fog.
Yeah, or another dip before it goes up again.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just another topic I just briefly like to touch on, we're kind of running out of time, but is really about putting yourself out there, because I know you've done that in a massive way in the last 2 years, and I know you've got a huge following on Periscope, and I know it's something I kind of struggle with myself, being honest about it, but it's where people struggle putting themselves out there, where they're good. And I mean, I know, as I said, hands up, I prefer working behind the scenes, but I know if I want to kind of achieve what I want to achieve, I need to put myself out there. And I know I'm not the only one. There's many people that would be in the same boat. So I suppose really just in your experience, or have you any nuggets of wisdom for encouraging people to put themselves out there, but also to consistently put themselves out there?
Yeah, I don't think progress comes unless you get that kind of feedback or that understanding of what people see of you. And it's an ability to develop sometimes a bit of a thick skin when you put something out there that necessarily someone's not going to like.
Mm-hmm.
Just as you said, on my Periscope in the mornings, I only speak about things that motivate and inspire me, and I try and share that with people, and I try and share tips and tools that I've used. People have written to me and said that was absolute nonsense and they didn't like it.
Right.
And it's sometimes
nice of them to take the time, hey?
Yeah, I know. But it's the ability to kind of accept that you can please some people sometimes, but you can't please all the people all the time.
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there, it's the biggest risk, but it's the most gain. It really is. No one is going to find you unless you're out there.
That is true. That is so true. And, be it marketing or whatever. I mean, look, obviously I'm talking about that with people all day, every day. And, I always say to people, like, it's like having your website in a field and no road to it. But equally, if you're in the field with no road to you, how do people find you? So absolutely. Yeah. So do you have, like, because you obviously do you personally like, doing your periscopes or?
Yeah, I do. I think if I have no issues speaking to lots of people. I have no issues putting myself out there. I am confident in putting myself out there. So to people who, it's a difficult question. I love to see people put themselves out there. I love to see people take small opportunities. If you have a story that you're willing to share it with your family and your friends, and they're going to be the biggest critics. So
that's for sure.
often a tough one to go with, but often a very more securing way. So I really do love to see people come out of the shell with the ability to say, there are so many people who are battling with the same things that you are. No one is alone in a problem that they're battling. Whether that be overcoming an obstacle in business or whether that be overcoming an obstacle in a personal relationship, there are so many other people. And when you express that your desire to overcome these obstacles, or the ability that the things that you're learning to overtake them, and when you share that with other people and put yourself out there to do it, the responses that come in can absolutely blow your mind. As you've already alluded to, Periscope is my platform to share, because anyone in the world can drop into Periscope at any one time. You can just go on a map and see where people are live broadcasting. So I have made friendships with, for example, I've got a gentleman who lives in Canada, and his name's Marco, and we have a Skype once a month to talk about brainstorming about business. Only because one day he just dropped into my Periscope, liked what I spoke about, and asked if he could chat to me. But this guy is an incredibly clever businessman, an incredibly clever relationship builder. So the value that I get from talking to him once a month, and the value that he gets from having his clarity call with me once a month, is totally mutual benefiting. And that wouldn't have come if you just didn't put yourself out there.
Yeah. That's a great example, actually. And I think as well, just for people just listening in then as well, Periscope is great, as you say, for people dropping by, and it can be anyone, anywhere in the world. Whereas with Facebook, obviously, it's more likely to be your friends and associated friends that would see you. So I think sometimes people might need to look at both mediums. Some people have dismissed Periscope. I don't know that they should. So just to have a look at that as well, because as Roger says, you build up these relationships with people. I mean, there's somebody in Canada, a really smart business guy. Both of them are leveraging their own skills and have a very, fluid and important relationship that helps them both in their business. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, it really is. And just wouldn't happen without it, really. I mean, let's face it.
No, exactly. The thing I touched on briefly, the difference between Periscope and Facebook. I understand the massive difference, but one thing I do understand is the importance of both. Periscope's going to bring the live broadcasters in live, and Facebook is going to get all the views afterwards.
Yes.
So that's kind of like the key that I see the definition between the two. On Facebook, you might have one live viewer and an important piece of information, but if that information is important, it'll get shared.
Correct.
The views will go up later, whereas Periscope is more about the instant moment. Yeah,
correct. And actually, one I'd urge people to have a look at as well, because I noticed a couple of key influencers really leveraging it, is YouTube Live. And people aren't really rating it as such, and yet there's a couple of key influencers from the States and whatnot that I see using it, and every day. So right. I think for me, that's one to keep I always like to have these kind of ones left to feel sort of that people aren't necessarily jumping on right now, and just even have a look and see because if there's not a massive amount of people there yet, there's an opportunity there to jump in, I think, relatively quickly, and to be like a first mover, and to enjoy kind of the advantages of that. So I just urge people. One or few people dismissed it out of hand, but I like when everybody else goes left to go right, personally. So, I'd always urge people to look at those opportunities. Don't dismiss them out of hand. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. It's owned by Google, so it's well worth a look in terms of the platform that it is, and it's working a lot. I think it's obviously in competition with Facebook, so they're wanting to make it better. So it's looking at those opportunities as well, where they're coming on stream all the time. I mean, last year Blab was great, and I used it quite a lot. Unfortunately, it didn't stay running. However, there's other mediums that will come up. So I think for people as well, just to look at what platforms work for them and do that. Can I just ask you as well, finally, Roger, is network marketing. You alluded to that you've done obviously many different things in your career. There'll be a number of network marketers listening in, so I'd just like you just maybe expand, if you don't mind, just kind of relatively quickly, just what network marketing has done for you, and I suppose what you see as the positives and the advantages of being involved in network marketing.
Yeah, I'm still network marketing is kind of runs alongside my property. I know my journey sounds so confusing into so many things that I've been doing, but just in terms of the clarity, what I am is I'm a professional network marketer who, in my spare time, invests in property.
Okay.
Property is where my head is. Network marketing definitely where in terms of producing revenue and building relationships. Even property investing has actually come out of network marketing because I've come across the people who earn money they don't really know where to put it.
Okay.
But why it was so important to me was first of all, it took me away from full-time employment. It allowed me to live life on my terms. I didn't have to constantly chase commission. I didn't have to report to a chunk of the day. I think I lost more time in full-time employment because I was building a business, and I lost time in our relationships. But network marketing kind of brought it all back to me. At first, it created more chaos because I was doing it alongside full-time employment.
Mm-hmm.
But when the scales switched, it was a different story completely. We've gone through a very interesting journey on network marketing. We've built success with one company, and we actually changed a company about 8-9 weeks ago. And it was a very strange changing companies in network marketing because like full-time employment, if you get headhunted by another job and you leave, you get chocolates and sweets to say congratulations, enjoy your journey. But if you change companies in network marketing, it's like, who are you? But we've had a really, really interesting journey over the last 8 weeks and building success again very quickly, kind of taking all the success we had before and not doing all the mistakes that we made in our first company and building it now. I'm a massive fan of the industry for one particular reason, is it requires people to be different. It requires them to forget the normal model of work. It requires them to put themselves out there. It requires people to actually look at you and say, oh no, you're not doing one of them pyramid things, are you?
Mm-hmm.
It requires you to be able to do that. When you see the income work, when you see it start happening, it's an industry that is based so heavily on personal development and so heavily on improving yourself to get the skills, because it's hard work. It really, really is hard work. We've worked harder in our network marketing business than we have in anything else before. And that's true. And you do so much work in network marketing for no validation at first. I think the reason why people struggle with it is because they don't get paid for their efforts at first.
Mm-hmm.
In network marketing. But there's a very, very famous saying by a clever network marketer in the past. His name's Cedric Harris, and he says, at first you will be paid, you won't be paid for what you're worth. Then at some stage you'll be paid for what you're worth. And that is the price that you pay to be overpaid for eternity. Okay. So in network marketing, you do pay the price of working really hard for not much reward. People sell the industry as that you're going to come in and you're going to recommend a few products to people, and all of a sudden you're going to have £1,000 a week in your bank account. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work like that. Yes, when you start building a team, a little bit of money comes in. And then when you start helping those people find other people to build their own industry, then that money comes in a bit more. But it does take that period of growth. Mm-hmm. In network marketing, you could have, it doesn't matter how big your organization is, 90% of your money is going to be made by 10% of the people in your organization. Mm-hmm. So you constantly go through battles of trying to get people motivated, trying to get people started, trying to get people hungry. And that's fighting a losing battle. Network marketing, all I do is I invite people to the opportunity and they do the work. I can tell these days very quickly when someone's going to be successful, someone's going to be good, because they're the ones calling me. They're the ones on the phone to ask me for advice. They're the ones who are coming to all the events. They're the ones who are ringing me to say they've got a customer. How do they do this? And those are the people that I invest my time with, the ones who are calling me.
Okay.
When I discovered that process, that's when success has started changing in network marketing.
Okay. And we'll say, and I'm glad to actually hear you saying that it does take time to build, and I think any business is the same. Can you give people, or is there a way of roughly guiding, like, do they need to kind of give it a good 3 or 6 months, or is it a year? Or I know how long is a piece of string, really, but in your experience so far, kind of on average, kind of what time should people give before they start saying to themselves, hey, this isn't working? And again, like you say, that's assuming that they're the ones proactively going out, that they're proactively pursuing this.
Yeah. So I can only talk kind of like from the emphasis of the system that we would teach people. And I would say if you did the lessons that have been taught to me by my mentors and that I used, if you can use those system methods, I would say give it 6 months to decide that if it's for you or not.
Mm-hmm.
In 6 months, if you've honestly taken on the trainings on board and you've duplicated the practices, but it hasn't quite filled you with the desire, or you think it's not ready for you, that's the thing. Because if you don't make money in 6 months and you do the actions, then maybe it's not for you. And it's not for everyone. That's what we've got to understand first as well. It's not for everyone. But then I would say give it a strong year before any thought of leaving any full-time employment.
Okay.
Or any thought. And I would say maybe 2 years of an income stream before you leave employment. I will be the first person to hold my hand up and say I left full-time employment too soon. Because when I did leave my employment, I went from a normal working relationship where I understood how money came in to only relying on network marketing, and my business took a lot of dips.
Right.
Or I was able to build it up to a stable situation again. So I definitely left full-time employment too soon. So my advice on my things is give it 6 months of really give it a go. And when I mean give it a go to the events that your company puts on, reach out and learn everything you can. Have in your diary every single day a half an hour period where you learn something new about the industry of network marketing. There are hundreds of podcasts and YouTube videos of amazing leaders in the industry that have got so many nuggets to share. And then definitely for more than a year, have a stable bit of income before you decide about giving up any full-time employment. And people think that's long, but what is 2 years of hard graft to work on your own terms for the rest of your life?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you put it into perspective, it's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. And I think actually there's huge parallels there to any business. You know, you've got to put the work in. There's that lead time in where it grows. You create a platform, you're stacking it, you're growing, be it your relationships, your revenue and whatnot. So I think that's terrific. Thank you very much, Roger. You know, overall, I could talk to you all morning, but I won't take up the whole morning. But thank you really, you know, I really appreciate you being on board as a speaker. I think you have so much to share. If people want to get in contact with you, how can they best get in contact with you? I'll share your website, but just quickly for people, you know, how can they get in contact with you and hear your periscopes and whatnot?
Yes, so on the screen now is my live periscopes every weekday at 7:10 in the morning. The reason it's 7:10 is because I imagine people's alarms go off at 7 o'clock.
Right, yeah.
7:10, and that is just designed to help people make that decision every day. We could be talking about anything. We do everything from amazing motivation to just little tips and habits to improve your day. We talk about all this stuff on there. And there's a lovely network. People have made friends through Periscope. I've got people who've connected on Periscope that are now friends and meet for coffees and things. So it's a lovely network. And you can search me on Periscope at Roger T. Burrowes. My personal email is up there if people do want to get in touch with me. In network marketing, I'm constantly looking for awesome business builders. The Irish market I am so interested in that market because it's not like nothing I've never met before. The company that I work with has only been about 10 months in the UK, so the Irish market is right there ready for some leaders to grasp it. It really is. I'm so interested in that. And then on my website, anyone can book in with me for a one-on-one. If anyone wants to have a chat with me about any clarity, any goal-setting workshops, anything, you can book in with me. And your first 2 hours are always just pro bono or completely free. I just want to chat to people and see if we can work together, and hopefully I can add some value. So people can feel free to book in through my website. And my weekly blog is on there as well. And the weekly blog is a summary of that week's Periscope.
Fantastic.
So there's always a topic that we share during the week, and then sometime during the next week, I kind of summarize it and put up on a blog. And last week's was actually looking at procrastination. So really, really fun one to look at. Yeah.
I took a screenshot of the monkey and the.
That's a very famous blog where I learned a lot about procrastination. I forget the guy's name, but it's fascinating, that one, that the monkey and the.
It definitely brings home, I think, for a lot of people where, you know, they're wanting to achieve the goals, and sometimes it's listening to the monkeys, it's listening to the voices, it's, you can call it many things. Is what's that guy, Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog? It's referred to in many different ways, but I mean, essentially it's about really action taking. So, I mean, again, guys, if you want to contact Roger, he's very kindly offered there where you can book a one-to-one with him. He's got workshops. You can read his blog. His personal email, roger@rogertigerburrowes.com. And equally, obviously, he's on Periscope at 7:10 exactly on Periscope every morning, and you can catch him there. And they're available for 24 hours, isn't it? If you people want.
They are endless now. They don't go anymore. You can
okay, great. Brilliant. So that's fantastic. So again, thank you so much, Roger. You've shared some great nuggets of wisdom there that people can take away. Just quickly to remind people, about goals, your priorities, your goals, your actions, about keep moving forward, about clarity, and that grid that I think Roger shared is a great way of getting clarity in life and in business so that you know where you're going. So again, thank you so much, Roger. Thank you for being part of the Marketing Success Summit. I'd urge people to listen in, to share. This will be available for 24 hours after it goes live. And so if you feel anybody would benefit from this, please to share with people and to share with your friends for the Marketing Success Summit. So again, thank you so much, Roger, and really delighted to have you here. And again, I think you might be in the Facebook group as well if people have any further questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all.